the wall, eh? Okay, now you're talking my language.
You ever drunk Baileys from a shoe?
Oh, great. Thanks, Mother, for replacing the baby aspirin with LSD.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountain?
The View from C-Deck. I'm your host, Just Matt, here with my man, the Dyerwolf. He's back in action. And we're here to talk about do a little review of the Buckeye game against Arkansas State last week, but also preview Toledo coming up here. Two juggernauts back to back. Don't know how we're going to handle it. Don't know if they can get them up for this other task. Primetime game in the shoe. What do you think, Casey Dyer? So what do you think, though, about the game this past weekend? 45-12 doesn't quite tell the whole story. It looks like we blew them out easily. It wasn't that easy, but it wasn't the worst performance, as I've heard some people saying. What was your take on the game?
Yeah, I mean, going into it after the Notre Dame game, I really wanted to see the offense just completely go off and dominate. Oh, yeah. And they did. I wouldn't say they did that, but I was glad to see that they kind of made an effort to establish the run early. He didn't seem to continue to do that throughout the game. Like, if you look at the final stats, it was almost exactly even in passes to runs.
It was, but not while the starters were in. It was a little bit more passing when the starters were in.
But I guess I'm nitpicking here, but I'd prefer we have this ridiculous pass game, so I get it. But we have these running backs too, so I'd prefer to run first, pass second, and I don't know if they will ever do that. But but yeah,
Andy Reid in them.
Overall, I was satisfied. I mean, the defense didn't necessarily look better compared to week one, but I don't know if they looked a whole lot worse. The defensive backs definitely didn't look great, particularly Burke. But all the people, and one person shall remain nameless, but all the people bitching and moaning about Burke looked terrible. They look awful. Like it was one game. I mean, it's the second game of the year. New defensive coordinator. They're trying to break old habits, probably. Which I guess you can't say that about all the defensive backs. So it's kind of talking out both sides of my mouth here, but but I'm not worried about Burke at all. My concern level would be like a 2 out of 10 right now on him. It's still a long season. We'll see what he does this next week, but overall I thought it was a solid performance. I'd probably give it a B. But those are my thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. Well, first thing I'll say is I'm a believer. I have my own theory about how many games you can get an A effort out of. And it varies, I think, at each level from high school to college. Like high school, you're probably only getting like 4 or 5 games where you're getting the A level out of everybody on your team. And then when you get to college, it's probably for a good coach, 4 or 5. For a good coach in college, you're probably getting maybe 8 games where you're getting the A level out of everybody. And then in the pros, it's probably more like 12 to 13 or so, because there's just the level. I mean, you're dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds who see a team like Arkansas State on the schedule, and they're not going to get up for it. And it's okay. It's okay. And I don't want to waste, you can waste those games. I call them whip games when you're really trying to you see them in practice. The coaches really are driving it home that they're going to the whip on a thoroughbred. They want to see something. And there's no reason for that against a team like Arkansas State. They just don't have it in the trenches. We controlled the trenches, both sides of the ball. Could run the ball when we wanted to. If they would like to do that more, that'd be okay with me. But Arkansas State had talent, and that little slot receiver they had, Champ Flemings, kicked our butt all over the field. He had 10 catches for over 100 yards. James Blackman looked like a guy who started at a P5 program. He was solid there at quarterback. He didn't make any mistakes. The only concerning thing I think about the defense so far is they haven't forced a turnover, but I'm a big turnovers have a lot to do with luck kind of thing.
They do. I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, like you said, they get A out of about 8 games. So which 4 would you prefer them to not play in their A?
Yeah.
These two, Rutgers and Iowa, maybe. Apparently, they're like the
Iowa's sludge fart offense. Yeah. Like the efforts, I'm not worried about. The DBs. Burke had some bad pass interferences. I'm not exactly sure if it's all on him or the way he's being coached. To be honest, they're not looking for the ball a lot of times, which that's a philosophy of some defensive coordinators, especially at the NFL.
I can't stand it.
Yeah, I don't like it, but it's also something that can be effective if it's done correctly. It wasn't done correctly Saturday, and Cam Brown had a terrible missed tackle where he basically did everything wrong you're taught about tackling. And he let the guy go inside. He went outside of him. Didn't use the sideline to help him make the tackle. Completely whiffed. It was bad. But they didn't give up a touchdown. That's pretty good. They gave up less than 300 yards of offense, about 278. That's pretty good in modern college football. Like, nothing stands out where you're like, oh, that was horrible, statistically. And like you said, the offense, it reminded me of the Minnesota game actually last year a lot, where we got huge chunk plays for all our almost every touchdown but one, I believe, was over 20 yards. All of CJ's were over 30 yards or more.
Yeah,
I'm going to give myself one little check mark. I preseason, my bold prediction was that Marvin Harrison Jr. would break the Terry Lynn's touchdown record. 3 on Saturday, get him back on pace there to maybe do that, get to 17. Overall, the passing game, but they had 4 3-and-outs. Like, they had 4 3-and-outs, which is not acceptable against a team like Arkansas State. And I think a lot of that was like, if we decided to run the ball, 60% of the time, we don't have any 3-and-outs, most likely, because we're moving around.
Or 3 passes. I'd have to go back and look, but
yeah,
probably half of them.
Yeah. So it was an uneven performance offensively, but not what I'm worried about. CJ's numbers are a little down right now, but he's basically played with 3 new receivers since Jackson's not been playing. Good news this week, though. Jackson's supposed to be back. Fleming's supposed to be back, according to Ryan Day.
I don't like it, but whatever. I want to see Fleming because he has almost literally never played. He needs to get reps, but Jackson doesn't need to be in there. I mean, yeah. I get it. You don't want him to be rusty against Wisconsin, but come on. If he gets hurt in this Toledo game, I'm never going to forgive Day.
I don't think he'd be playing if he wasn't 100%. Yeah. But speaking of our Toledo game, we can move on there. It's a primetime game. Ohio State's 32.5-point favorites right now, somewhere thereabouts. As we're recording this on Tuesday night, Toledo comes in 2-0. They've played maybe the worst schedule in college football so far. Long Island University and UMass both at home. Easy dubs. Defense is ranked top 5 in the country, but they're playing 2 of the worst offenses in the country. And they've won by an average of 46-5. That's pretty good. They do have a Daquan Finn. Their quarterback is kind of their do-it-all. He's leading them in rushing. Obviously leads them in passing. He's put up scored 6 touchdowns total, 3 through the air and 3 on the ground. They've got a lot of running touchdowns. They ran all over these 2 bad teams. But I don't think we know anything about Toledo, to be honest, coming from those 2 games, except for that they aren't completely terrible. The line seems low to me, though. With that said, they do have some talent, but haven't had the guys transfer in like Arkansas State did, and we would have covered that spread against Arkansas State too. They do have a former Buckeye on defense, though, Dallas Scant, their leading tackler, and he's had actually 20 tackles in 2 games. That's pretty solid. I always thought he would be pretty good here, but once we moved down to 2 linebackers and he was lost in the shuffle, I don't blame him at all for transferring back home. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this game, though, coming up? What would you like to see Saturday night?
I'm kind of with you there. You said they played the easiest schedule in college football. I'd argue maybe Michigan has. And
they're right by each other. I think something's in the water up there.
Yeah. It's like, what do we really know about Michigan? So Toledo, like you said, I was looking at those scores. It's like they've scored almost 50 points both games. They've given up 7 and 0. So
10-0,
yeah, it's like, well, I mean, everything looks. I can't say anything bad about them. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. Again, I already said it before. I'm hoping we establish the run and just force the issue, and that's going to open up all kinds of stuff. I mean, if you look at the last game, Travion only had 10 carries, but he averaged almost 9 yards a carry. Like, come on.
Mine only had 8.
Beast. But, yeah, and if Jackson does play and Fleming plays, I'm thinking we can cover that spread pretty easily. But it is one of those that seems eerily low, to be honest. But we'll see. I'd like to see, the defensive back step up, Burke play a lot better.
Yeah.
It'd be great to not give up a touchdown again. If we give up a few field goals, I'm okay with it. But yeah, just limit those big plays, and I'm thinking we'll come out well over that 32, to be honest.
Yeah, it's with everybody back. I mean, but it could be herky-jerky trying to work these guys back in, get back in a rhythm.
Yeah.
You never know. But Toledo's run defense hasn't been great against these two not good opponents. 125 yards a game in the 2 games, which isn't. I mean, they only have like 50 yards passing, so maybe the other team just like didn't even try to pass it because they're so bad at it because they're just bad teams. Like I said, you just don't know anything about them. But you would think we have the huge advantage in the trenches like we have so far both games this year. If Dave wants to run the ball, but again, maybe trying to work, get ready for Wisconsin where it's going to be tough for sledding in the trenches, that maybe he tries to work on the passing game some more. Plus, he's got, like I said earlier, he's got some Andy Reid in him. I think he just likes to pass the ball first and then set things up that way. And if the pass is working, he just keeps passing.
Yeah, and it depends on how they're playing us too. I mean, it seems like there's been success with how the last 2 defenses have tried to play us, dropping 8 at times and keeping in front of them. And if that's the case, just run the damn ball. I mean,
just run the ball, make them change out of that, and then kill them over the top, which is easy to do.
Yeah.
When you have the kind of athletes we have at wide receiver. Also, a little shout out to Cade Stover. That man is a wrecking machine once he gets the ball in his hand. Just give him the ball.
Yeah.
He doesn't get. That's not what we do here.
No.
You'll block and you will like it. Over under 61. That's an interesting one. The way our defense is played, their defense is kind of good. Even though if we cover something like 50-10 or 52-10, that's an easy cover. That's over on 52-10. I think I like the over on this one, even though we've been under both games so far this year.
You said it was 60?
61.
So, yeah, it's been under, and we've lost against the spread both times.
Yeah.
So
I picked it last week. I'm now 2-2 in our games for the over-unders and the spreads. I had the under and you're 1-3 right now. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm thinking they'll score probably, 10 points, maybe only 6 if we can hold them to 2 field goals. And
that's true. It could be our defense that keeps the under in play, that would not surprise me. They did. I think their quarterback though is so athletic and pretty talented that I think he makes enough plays. We're still a little work in progress in the secondary. That maybe they get to 10, and then see that's why I love the over though, because I think Dave wants to put some points on the board.
He does. And the other thing is, we kind of got lucky at the end of that game against Arkansas State. You got the scrubs in, third stringer. They're driving down the field. If they wanted to, they could have called a timeout and or spiked it or done something and tried to score. They just let the clock run out. So
yeah.
I could see something like that happening too, where we're up like 52-6, and that we got guys on the field we never even heard of, and they're just trying to score and score a late touchdown.
I thought Dallin Hayden looked good. Speaking of guys who got in and are going to play a role down the road for this team, if one of mine or Travion gets hurt, Dallin Hayden's next up, and he had a couple nice carries, a couple catches, finish it off. He looks decisive out there when he runs, which is always something you worry about with freshmen, not wanting to put their foot in the ground, trying to make too much happen when because they're used to being just the best athlete on the field, and it's just not the case anymore. Yeah. But yeah, I think all things considered, I think this game should be a good. It's also the same time as Wisconsin, so it's a good warm up. Get yourself in a good rhythm. I think Day's gonna. I don't think it's an A effort game, but it could be. He may want it out here, just to get ourselves kind of ready for Big Ten play and to be rolling on all cylinders. And since we're integrating everybody into the lineup, see this offense go at full throttle. I'm hoping it looks that way, or else I may start to get actually worried.
Yeah, and I do want to see. I want to see a couple more sacks, man. Like we've been hurrying them, and they've been getting rid of the ball quick, which there's really nothing you can do about that, I guess. But I think Hall's the only defensive lineman with a sack so far. I think the only other sacks are linebackers. Eichenberg had 2.
And Steele Chambers had one on Saturday.
Steele Chambers
I think he is the only one that has. We've had I think 2 sacks and then 3 sacks.
Yeah.
I mean, Hall's a beast right now. He had a little scare early in the game, but he's fine. JT's go ahead.
I mean, they seem like they're getting after it, but they're just not quite getting there. But a quarterback hurry is obviously not as good as a sack, but it essentially does the same thing, just don't lose as many yards.
Yeah, or forces a turnover, but that hasn't happened yet either. I mean, I feel like we're the big plays. This is what's kind of impressive though for us so far, is we've held teams both games under 300 yards of total offense without having very many sacks or very many or any turnovers. Sorry, not very many, 0.
Yeah,
and that's impressive. It just shows that they were actually like solid across the board. Like we aren't really screwing up anything that badly. And that's also contributed to why we haven't covered the spread too. If you don't force turnovers, you can't really bust open a game that easily.
Yeah, it's like the opposite of Iowa. Was it Iowa last year when they were forcing like 4 or 5 turnovers a game?
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, you can't expect that every game. We're the opposite of that. So that I'm with. It's a good
There's
feeling.
A team out there doing that right now. USC has forced like 10 turnovers their first 2 games. Look out for USC to go back down a little bit once that turns around. I know I missed on my pick with them. We'll be doing a betting show right after this. But that's a team that's getting that turnover luck that I've talked about. That it just doesn't happen that way. You just don't get 5 a game, no matter how good you are at it, unless you're Peanut Tillman's on your team.
Difference between them and Iowa's, they got a legit offense. So
you're saying Brian Ferentz doesn't have a legit offense? Did you see that?
Not even this year, but last year was when they were making all those turnovers. Their offense was still trash.
Casey, with 3 minutes to go in the game, they had the perfect balance of 58 rushing yards and 58 passing yards. With 3 minutes to go in the game. Hey, Kirk, fire your son. He sucks. Yeah. All right. So after this week, this begs the question. I'll let you elaborate a little bit this week. How are you feeling about the national championship chances 2 weeks in now?
I figured you'd ask that. So as far as it's kind of a 2-pronged answer here, I guess. As far as the quality of our team, I don't think it went up or down. It stayed basically flat from last week. But my biggest concern coming into this year was big bad Bama. And I think after 2 weeks, we actually look better than they do. Now, Georgia might have jumped into my biggest concern there, but I'd say we're a step in front of Bama right now.
You pretty much stole my answer there. I thought you were about to steal it word from word, because I don't think us ourselves didn't increase my confidence. I'd say it's flat. I thought Notre Dame increased my confidence a little bit because we could win a game that we had to like slug it out and run the ball, and we could run out the clock and get yards when we needed to. But this week, it wasn't a great performance in any way that showed anything that makes me say, oh yeah, that's going to work against Alabama. But the rest of college football had not such a great week. Nobody in the top 10 covered the spread, which is crazy. Obviously, we had a lot of upsets. We had a lot of teams go down, and Bama should have gone down. If it weren't for a bad call or two or a missed sack, yeah, I can see you steaming. Isn't it annoying when a team like that gets the calls? Like,
yeah.
Gets the breaks, go their way. They don't need that. They've had all the breaks for the past decade.
The mighty Sun Belt, though, man.
Yeah.
Freaking bringing the pain this year.
Look out, dude. Appalachian State, they're a crazy 2-point conversion play from being 2-0 against two P5 teams and maybe like talking about them in the playoff.
Like they probably be top. They might be like 10th because look at BYU. I mean, they're an independent. They're not exactly in not the same thing as Appalachian State, but they have one really good win and they're number 12.
A chance for another one this week. But yeah, I would say, but overall college football, I mean, I said this to you right before we started. I got a little 2007 feeling going on with all these upsets right off the bat early in the year. Appalachian State knocks off a top 6 team, just like 2007. You guys remember at Michigan, don't you? Yeah, I thought so.
I was going to ask you. I meant to look it up. You probably have no idea, but I mean, it seems like it happens every year. Freaking A&M loses. They were number 6 in the country. And
it's a running.
When is the last time we lost to a team like that? I can't remember. Like that must have been like Earl Bruce or before.
Oh, like a G5 team or like a bad team? So I mean, Purdue was a bad team when we lost to them. No. But G5, I think we've won like 55 in a row or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. I actually heard this on the radio this morning, I think it was.
Yeah, because it's like we can bitch and moan all we want, but think if we lost to freaking Arkansas.
We've had close calls. The first thing that comes to mind is the Marshall game when I was in school. And Mike Nugent had to hit a 55-yarder as time expired to win 24-21. That's the first thing that came to my mind. Actually, I Jack Park, because that was on the radio this weekend when I was driving home before the game. And somebody asked them, like, what's the game that you think of against the G5 team that it was close? And I was like, Marshall, right away. Because I was in school when that happened. It's like the first or second game that year.
There was either an Army or a Navy game, I think, where they just did their thing. And
Navy.
The game clock, they just kept running the damn ball a million times. And I think
Navy.
we 7 or 10 or something.
It was like 9. It was 9, I think, because I was at a wedding that day. So I didn't see all of it. I just saw bits and pieces of that game.
That was a Trestle.
Yeah, it was Trestle. It was the week before we played USC that year.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was probably the closest I remember. I don't remember that Marshall game.
04.
That must have been.
We lost 4 games. It preceded a 4-loss season.
Oh, was that the one year we lost to Michigan?
No, we beat Michigan. That's my freshman year. This is the year we lost. This was Justin Zwick was the starting quarterback in that Marshall game.
That's right.
We lost. We got hammered by Wisconsin and Iowa that year. Lost to Purdue.
We were 6-5, and we were playing a ranked Michigan team.
6-4. 5. Yeah, 6-4. Beat Michigan 7-4. Beat Oklahoma State in the bowl game 8-4.
Oh, that's right. We used to only play freaking 11 regular season. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Tough year though. The only reason I know it as well is my freshman year at Ohio State. Yeah. So I remember that well. All right, bud. Well, that'll do for our review and preview of the Buckeyes this week. Not that much to talk about, as you said, going off a weaker opponent and playing a weaker opponent. Next week, though, the week after this one, we're going to be playing Wisconsin, although they might be a weaker opponent after their loss. We shall see. But thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Like us, subscribe, share us. Check us out on all the podcast platforms, too. And we will see you guys next week.
Hey, guys. Whoa, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.
A rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful land, but there